Good morning. My name is Wayne Gattinella. I'm President and CEO of WebMD. By way of background, WebMD is one of the most recognized and relied on brands of health information today. The WebMD family of sites reaches about 60 million unique users each month, and approximately 95% of all adult Americans looking for health information online each year. Medscape, which is our website directed at physicians, generates more than 1.5 million monthly physician visits and reaches roughly 8 out of every 10 practicing physicians in the U.S. Pursuant to WebMD's policies and procedures for content creation, labeling, and editorial review, we follow the tenets of truthfulness, transparency in sources, and fair balance in our originally created editorial. Our mission is to improve health and medical outcomes through credible, authoritative, and trustworthy content and informational experiences that is the forefront of what our company and our brand represents. I'd like to address our comments to questions 1, 2, and 4. WebMD strongly believes that the use of the Internet and the so-called Web 2.0 applications can effectively inform consumers about health conditions and available treatments. It can enable consumers to take an active role in managing their conditions and their health. And most importantly, it can enhance the patient-physician relationship. If you look at what's happening on the web today, consumers who are increasingly becoming involved in their health and wellness issues now depend on the Internet more than any other source when they have a health-related question. Consumers turn to the web more often than the traditional channels that they historically had relied on, such as family, friends, and even their doctors. And in a similar way, this trend towards the use of the web and interactive media is also reflected in physician behavior. If you look back only 5 years ago or so as to where doctors went for their medical information, they relied most heavily on industry meetings, conferences, journals, even pharmaceutical reps. But if you fast forward to today, virtually all physicians are online and online looking for medical information in a way that has been fast replacing those traditional sources. Physicians have grasped the effectiveness of the web firsthand as an educational tool that improves their medical practice through the real-time availability of dependable and objective information. Empowering consumers with respect to their healthcare knowledge, we know and have learned it leads to better dialogue with a medical professional. It creates more involvement and ownership of the treatment process, and ultimately it improves their outcomes. Physician-patient interaction is improved when the patient has a greater understanding and is more engaged in their situation. I think one of the most compelling changes over the last few years is the increasing acceptance of physicians of the fact that their patients are coming into their offices better informed on health issues that affect them, often armed with information that they had received from the Internet. In fact, today, 75% of doctors actually recommend websites to their patients when they leave the office. It's an effective way to continue to educate the patient about their condition and to keep them engaged. We're certainly proud of the fact that the website most recommended by doctors today is WebMD. Consumers are increasingly using social media as a means to communicate and exchange information, and as a result, there's no doubt that social media will continue to expand. In 2008, it was estimated that 41% of U.S. Internet users had visited a social networking site that month. And in a recent WebMD survey of our own community users, they responded that user-generated content posted by others was a very helpful source of information for them. In a recent Manhattan Research survey, user-generated content in the form of blogs, chat rooms, and message boards had a strong impact on consumers' health and their RX treatment decisions. And similarly, physicians are engaged in accessing social networking. In addition to viewing information delivered by key opinion leaders, many are now participating in condition or topic-specific communities that are available only to healthcare professionals. As we look at the community activity on Medscape, we expect that physician participation in social networking programs will greatly increase in the next year as physicians find online communities tailored to a physician audience as extremely helpful. As we all know, the Internet is markedly different from other media in its ability to provide the breadth of information regarding risks and benefits, and to fully disclose all risk information that's required to be disclosed by the FDA. Without the limitation of time, as is the case with broadcast advertising, or space, as is the case of print media, the Internet offers a special ability to fully meet the requirements of full disclosure of safety and risk information, thereby fully leveraging the Internet's technological benefits. The FDA, of course, recognizes the inherent differences and limitations of different media forms and accordingly provides that required disclosures should be adapted to recognize those differences. The FDA recognizes that 30 or 60-second television advertising spots simply cannot provide all full risk and safety information. As a result, FDA has allowed risk disclosure requirements to be met through the adequate provision requirements, which allows advertisers to provide full risk disclosures through alternative sources such as toll-free telephone numbers or print media. But unlike Internet advertising, broadcast media do not make the additional information accessible in real time, and the risk information itself can be completely removed from the viewer or oftentimes just less likely to ever be viewed. In stark contrast, the Internet provides for straightforward and complete delivery of all required information immediately and in a form that's readily available to the user. Today, Internet users fully understand the use of links and their usefulness when seeking additional information. The current lack of FDA guidance regarding the circumstances under which the pharmaceutical industry can participate in the market for social media is restricting the flow of valuable information exchange among consumers and between consumers and the pharmaceutical industry. We recognize that this medium offers novel user content generation and presents many possibilities. We also recognize that social media presents some challenges that need to be considered since it is created outside of the controlled environment under which editorial content is typically prepared. Within the short span of time that we have today, it's impossible to discuss in detail all the means that the Internet makes available to expand these types of communications. However, we do believe that the means do exist today to enable the pharmaceutical industry to responsibly participate in expanded communications with consumers and healthcare professionals regarding their products. We believe there is a place for pharma-sponsored social media applications which should build upon the platform established by the FDA guidelines and regulations for pharmaceutical advertising, as well as the FTC guidelines for online advertising. With regard to accountability for online content and communications, as a general rule, we believe that unless a pharmaceutical company has influenced or controlled the content or communications on a website, in other words, has created the page or drafted the advertising content or communication, we do not believe that the pharmaceutical company should be responsible for the content or communication exchanges that otherwise might take place on the web. FDA should evaluate whether a pharmaceutical company controls the content or communication based on whether it has created, edited, or otherwise controlled the content or communication. This approach is consistent with FDA's current approach to online advertising and should serve as a general principle for social media programs supported by pharmaceutical companies.